Hi, Jennifer LaHaye here with why dyslexia is not a dirty word. So I have my good friend and colleague here, Rebecca Tolson, and Rebecca has had extensive experience. She's actually the one who got me involved into structured literacy. She started off in her early days as a tutor, a part-time tutor, and then has pursued higher ed and various certifications and I guess certifications would be the word. So I'm going to have Rebecca share a little bit about her background, and then we're going to talk about some dyslexia laws and how that applies to families and schools.
Well, Jen, I started off with Wilson training and some Orton Gillingham background, and then did Southern Methodist University's training and became a member of ALTA and a certified academic language therapist. And after that, I worked toward my qualified instructor and am currently a doctoral student at Akron University in curriculum and instruction. My dissertation is dyslexia, and the topic of dyslexia and teacher training. So in regards to the legislation, I was part of the Ohio legislation group that worked on the laws in 2011, which were passed. Those laws, House Bill 96 was a dyslexia pilot study, and actually that study is completed, and you can read the executive summary of the results of that pilot study on the Ohio Department of Education website. It's very interesting what they found. It included early identification, screening. It also included teacher training and even some coaching and some follow-up in the classroom with teachers and students. So I think if you have an opportunity, to read the executive summary of that, what they found. So that was, I feel like, a progress for our state to look at that, because 8 districts were part of that study. Also, House Bill 157 was a professional development bill. Now, it became law in December of 2011, and House Bill 157 just basically says that all teachers K to 3 should have at least a 2-day training on dyslexia, and that's through our educational service centers. However, that is not a mandated law. It's permissive, which means that, and I like to think of it as, if parents or teachers want that, they need to reach out to their educational service center, because it is part of the law, and say, we would like a training that is on dyslexia because we want to further our knowledge so that we can help students. So I think that the pressure and the interest from parents and teachers would be a good thing to their educational service center. So that's House Bill 157.
So I just want to interject here something. So that's really important, because maybe your school isn't fully aware, or they forgot about that law. And so I think it's important, if you're a parent and you're wondering what kind of help your child needs, you can reach out to your educational service center. It might be called the ESC in your area for the state of Ohio, and reach out to them. And they have to be qualified to provide that professional development. There's some guidelines for those who provide the professional development as well. It's just, they have to know what they're talking about. There's some strict guidelines with that. So parents, don't be afraid to reach out to your educational service center, say what school district you're in and what you would like to see in your school district for your child's teacher, because a lot of people, like we say in our circles, they don't know what they don't know. So Rebecca, I wanted to know, how do those laws that we talk about in the state of Ohio, how do those impact the teachers, the students, the schools, and the kids in their school life?
You know, as far as legislation is concerned, it sets policy. And when the team came together, the committee, we feel that, you have to work from the top down. So you have to get, as a state, we have to say, this is important. This is important for all districts. So now we're working our way down so that it hits those schools. But there is policy. Now, the good part for me about that policy is that children not only are being identified and we can, but also treated within the public schools. So parents don't always have to go outside of the school for private tutoring, because some schools who understand that what dyslexia is, knows that there is, training that goes along with treating that. So schools are having trained people in their, in their schools, and that's good. The other thing is about policy. The laws in Ohio in particular, one of the most important pieces was that the definition of dyslexia was in both laws. And it's a standard definition, okay? IDA approved, as well as in the Shaywitz book, Overcoming Dyslexia, and the NIH approved definition as well. So in that, we were able to define it. We were able to talk about it. So as recent as yesterday, I got an email from a district that says, you know, we're looking to identify and treat students with dyslexia in our district K to 12. Could you help us?
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't have happened without we can talk about it, we can name it, we can define it. And so public schools are reaching out to say we need to service our children with dyslexia. So I think that the legislation established the policy, established the terminology.
Yep.
And so that to me was what was important about the laws.
We've got real clear definitions about dyslexia, and she mentioned the IDA, which is the International Dyslexia Association. There's a tremendous amount of information there. And Rebecca is one of the powerhouses in the state of Ohio in helping with the Ohio legislation laws. A lot of the rest of the community of the IDA does look to Ohio and some of the laws that have gotten passed with Rebecca's help. So last but not least question, do these laws help parents get the help they need for their child?
Well, I do think they do.
You answer that, yeah.
Yeah, and I also think it's important because, you know, sometimes we want to individualize it, and sometimes that takes maybe after school specialized tutoring one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's hard for schools to be able to offer that.
Right.
But now we have more and more trained teachers and specialists and coaches within the public schools. So I think parents have that conversation in their meetings with maybe an IEP meeting, or that could say multisensory structured literacy would be a way to treat my child who is struggling, maybe reading or writing or both. So yeah, I think that the laws have helped parents because the communication with the district and the schools. And I have to be honest with you, I read more and more IEPs that use the term multisensory structured language.
Yes.
So we are targeting it as a treatment. And I think that's important, and that 10 years ago didn't exist. So I think we've made progress. Another thing I wanted to mention about the laws is that it's important to me at this point that regardless of what state you live in, you can be serviced the same. So if you move from state to state, you should get the same type of service.
Yes.
So that's why these laws are important, to say just because I live in Ohio, it means that I get something more than I would get in another state.
Right.
So I think that, you know, as we standardize these laws, I feel, and there are, I mean, we've got states like Texas who've had laws and handbooks and guidelines and on identification and treatment for years. And then you have some of the newer states, and they're states without any laws. So I think that's the drive. The drive is national, so that all children, regardless of where they live, are serviced and treated with the appropriate intervention.
And I think she kind of touched on it too, about the intervention piece. It's so critical. Moms and dads, if you really think that your child is dyslexic, to get them in so earlier. The earlier you get them, the better off it will be. Maybe the remediation will be a shorter period of time. Success can come earlier in school. We see students, both she and I both have worked with students, older students, it takes years to remediate. It can be done. It's much more expensive for the school district, remind them of that. And you know, I'm always concerned about the student's self-esteem, but some of those legislation laws really do make a huge impact. It gives the parents the power about what you can bring to school, and it increases your knowledge. So again, I encourage you to go to, what was it, the Ohio Department of Education
website. If you put dyslexia in the search engine, you should be able to find House Bill 157, House Bill 96. Those are our two Ohio laws. And actually, I forgot, there's a third law. Andrew Brenner also authored a law that made
And he's a politician. He's a representative.
Yes, and he's a representative, and he helped pass October as Dyslexia Month as a legal legally to say that October is Dyslexia Month. So we actually have that in Ohio.
We got a month.
We have a month.
We have a month.
So that's important because they're saying that it is important to talk about it.
Yes.
To, awareness of it. So, we thank the sponsors of the laws and I would like to say that because, Ted Celeste was one of the sponsors of the Dyslexia Pilot Study, House Bill 96, and Senator Lettner and Schuring were the House Bill 157. So without their help, we wouldn't be where we are today. So
and it is bipartisan.
Yes,
it was a bipartisan.
That's true.
We also had a Republican governor sign on to it, so we don't really need to divide party lines on this particular issue, which is nice in this day and age. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for your time. Actually, she's got to go. She's got to go work with kids.
Yes.
So, Rebecca, that's why dyslexia is not a dirty word. All right.
I just feel like we've had a conversation.